So this topic today has been on my mind ever since last week. How to love our fear. And to be clear, the topic is not how to love what we're afraid of. That's different. I mean how to love your fear, the feeling of fear, the energy of fear, the experience of fear, how to love that. And it's interesting because as the week's gone on and I've shared that with a few people, the first response is usually, ew. Seriously? You want to talk about that? Let's talk about joy or humor or forgiveness or something like that. And what occurred to me as this morning was unfolding is that not only am I going to talk about this today, but I think we have to pick it up the next time I speak. And I say that because there's been this thing that I just can't avoid that's been playing through my mind that I want to share as a part of my message. It might take a minute, so I'm just going to make it a message in two parts. Here's the thing that I keep seeing in my mind. And I don't know what this is going to work like or look like, but my job, generally speaking, is to put the stuff that just seems planted in here out there, and hopefully it makes sense to someone. You ready? All right. So, are we reasonably okay with the idea, at least here in this community, are we reasonably okay with our statement of being? God is all. Okay. Different manifestations, not all easily to like, and certainly not all worth supporting, but perhaps as expressions of God, everything, somehow in need of love in this world and in ourselves. But let's leave the world alone today. The world is a complicated place and it's very difficult and confusing to talk about what's going on out there. Let's just talk a little bit about what's going on inside. And maybe that'll be a reference point for what we can do outside. So here's how I think life works for a lot of us, okay? I believe that I am a spiritual being, or even a spirit being human. And as such, my aspiration is to love myself completely. In fact, as such, I do believe that core to my mission on earth is the ability to love. Are you with me so far? Can we reasonably agree to most of that? Okay, but here's where it gets funny. So then I start to look inside myself and I start to connect with the different parts of who I am. And there's my love of music. And I just love to love. I'm going to give all these away. My love of music. Angela, I don't have enough roses. But I'm loving music, and I so love that part of myself. And then there's this part of myself that's, playful and silly or something like that. And let's say that you represent that. So I'm going to just love that part of myself. And then there's this other part of myself that's, maybe a mother or a father or a sister or a brother. And I enjoy that. And I just love that. Now just look at all the love that's growing in my life. Are you getting this so far? Okay? These beings are eventually, let's say you all represent 100% of who I am inside. And then I come to this part of myself that is failure. Would you be my experience of failure? And then I have an experience of failure, and I'm not going to love that. I'm afraid of that. Because if I fail, people might not love me. She can't have one now. Because when I get close to her, I feel fear. And I don't want to give a rose to I don't want to give my love to something I'm afraid of. And then I come over here and, maybe I don't want to be wrong. Same kind of gig. I don't want to make a mistake. And I'm sorry, but you're going to represent me being wrong. And when I see myself being wrong, fear comes up. And I'm not going to love you because you make me afraid. I feel fear when I witness that. And then I think about all these things in my life that trigger fear. Being alone, dying, sickness, being imperfect. There's all these aspects of my life that when I face them, regardless of what they are, fear arises and I hold the love back. And if you can picture what's happening, love is not expanding in my life. It's contracting. And in fact, if I keep it too close and I hold it too tight and I keep it too long and for only certain experiences, I might lose some of this. I might forget some of this. I might crush some of this. I might lose touch with some of this. And then when I really need it, it's all over the ground. And suddenly, I have to work very hard to get it back. What did it feel like to love everything? Everything in myself. And fear is one of your greatest allies. Perhaps the greatest ally on the spiritual path. Because where there is fear, there is the opportunity for freedom. Anything you fear shows your attachment, your clinging, and dare I say, the smallness of your human ego. And yeah, it serves a purpose. It's there to protect you. But fear is kind of like one of those people that you hire and they just go overboard. You ask them to paint the fence red and you come back 5 hours later and the whole building, the driveway, all the furniture, red. That's fear. And then it tries to convince you how important it is and how everything should be red and how it needs to be there to look after you. Good grief. It wants your attention. I don't know. Kind of sounds like it wants your love. Isn't that funny? It's interesting, someone said to us very recently that scientifically, and I'll be honest, I didn't do the research to verify this, but that physiologically the experience of fear is predominantly or mostly identical to the experience of excitement in your body. But we don't know what to do with all this energy and agitation, and it's usually been brought up because of something we don't like, and so we start to push it away and not just feel it. We were talking last week about the flow, and Csikszentmihalyi, the Hungarian psychologist who studied the world's most extraordinary performers and the world's most resilient people. And what's fascinating in the research is that these are people who can climb a mountain with a broken leg or, play in the Philharmonic with strep throat or whatever it might be and do it all perfectly. And when interviewed and studied, one thing caught my attention, which is that he asked them in this incredible flow, as you face the choice, the challenge, the work before you, does fear disappear? And guess what the answer was? No. That's right. As they faced the mountain, oh yeah, the mountain. We have a mountaineer in the back. As they face the mountain, as they face the stage, as they face the difficult situation or choice, the fear arises and they welcome it. They greet it. And they know that it's a sign that this moment matters. Fear is there to remind you you are in a very important moment. But then what do you do with it? If you are conditioned like a wild animal, you will fight it, you will freeze, or you will run for the hills like a little deer. It's okay, I'm a big fan of wildlife. But is that the best you've got? My teacher always used to say, there's a fourth F when it comes to fear. It's not the one that some of you are thinking of. It's make it a friend. And love it. Meditate with it. Feel it. Just allow yourself to build a relationship with the experience of fear itself. Even if it's just seeing a spider or scorpion. Take a breath. What does it feel like? Where is it in your body? What's shaking? What's not shaking? And then make your decision. It might just be a feeling. It might be an invitation to the most important change of your life so that you're not afraid to fail, because that's how you succeed ultimately. You're not afraid to give fully of yourself, because that's how you feel more love. You're not afraid to be alone, because there's no such thing as being alone. There's no such thing as being alone, and you're certainly not afraid to be wrong. Because new things are being discovered every single day. And so what happens is the more we love our fear, the more we can love our life. The more clarity we have, the more power we have, the more choice we have. And so I hope the visual works for you. It sure works for me. Because I think to myself, could you imagine if I only gave out 3 or 4 roses? If I only shared that much love? But that's kind of how we spend a lot of our lives. Afraid of fear itself. And unwilling to love it, so then we can move past it and then reasonably consider what's on the other side. Just because you love your fear doesn't mean you're going to do the crazy thing on the other side. You might still decide not to walk down that dark alley, not to spend time with that person, but from a place of wisdom and not a place of reaction. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. So let's just take a quick moment and close our eyes as I wrap this up. And I invite you in your inner world for a moment just to consider a choice, a change, a challenge, or something in your life that brings up fear. Like I have the fear of, or when I think about, I feel fear. And more than that thing, just, if you can, be with the fear. And you might ask yourself, what might I do if the fear didn't exist, or if the fear were an ally, or if the fear energized me, or if by loving it the fear just went away, or walked with me? Maybe not disappearing, maybe journeying with me for the rest of my life, but as a companion and not an enemy. What would change? How would you be different?